Hi everybody, Fred Masterson with Force Options USA out here on a beautiful range day. You know, one of the biggest challenges we face as shooters is really dialing in our accuracy. And nowhere is that more difficult than it is with handgun. It is the most challenging weapon of all of our platforms to really dial in and be very accurate. It's a generally smaller gun, it's got a shorter sight radius. The trigger a lot of times, the press on it is twice the weight of the gun. It can be very difficult to master, especially for newer shooters. So today, we're going to look at a few drills to help you really dial in that accuracy. Stand by. So while there are a ton of different drills and different principles that we can look at in order to improve our accuracy, today I want to look at just some of my favorites. First off, today we're going to be using a Springfield range officer. Going to be sent out to me by the good folks at Springfield. 1911 chambered to 9mm. A lot of fun to shoot and a great tool for us to help us learn these exercises. All right, one of the biggest challenges we face is when we point in and we press our trigger, we have a little bit of muzzle snatch. We jerk the trigger and the muzzle dives just slightly. And when it does that, it obviously throws us off target. A lot of that can be due to anticipation, flinching when the gun goes off. It takes a lot of conditioning in order to get over that. All right, one of the best drills we can do for this is something called the brass on the front sight drill, or a dime drill. Drill's been around for a long time. It's one of my favorites. Let's see if I can pull this off. I'm going to bounce a piece of brass on the front sight like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to point in and I'm going to press the trigger with the goal of the brass not falling off. So let me ease this in here real quick. I'm going to point in, press, and the brass doesn't fall off. With that, what I know now is that my muzzle didn't dip. Now you can do this, it's much easier with a partner obviously, but if you can balance a dime or balance a piece of brass on there, what we find out is we get the habit of a smooth press of the trigger. I want that trigger to move back nice and easy and smooth. I don't want to jerk the barrel. I don't want to jerk the gun. With that, our shots are much more accurate. So now that we know we have to have a very smooth press to the rear, we want to jerk that trigger, we want a nice smooth continuous press of the trigger. We want to test that, see how good we've really adopted that. What I'm going to shoot is something called a ragged hole drill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 5 rounds into the circle right here. Now what's very important about this is I use the same hold point every time. If I shoot 5 rounds and they're all down here to the left, don't change your hold. Don't all of a sudden try to correct for it. What we're trying to do is 2 things. We're testing our trigger press, and we're also checking our gun. While I tend to default that it's user error, sometimes our sights are off. And this is a good way to check it. So we're going to shoot 5 rounds in here and see how we can do. All right, it looks like that went pretty well. I get a good 5-round group. We shoot this at about 3 to 5 yards. Nothing super far. We're really just trying to test our trigger and really check the sights. It looks like this gun, even out of the box, shoots pretty doggone well for me. Now, what you're going to find is this: if your group starts opening up, or especially if they're down, more than likely you're jerking that trigger a little bit. So let's go back to that nice smooth press, the dry fire drill. So another area where accuracy suffers a little bit is on the trigger reset. Now the trigger reset is just that. It's when I press the trigger, the gun fires, the action cycles, and the trigger resets. I only want to have to move that trigger as far as I absolutely have to. Now if I relax my finger too far, that trigger is going to go all the way back out, and I have to work it all the way from the front again. So here's what we're going to do. Check my weapon. We are clear. Magazine is empty. Magazine well is empty. I'm going to point in, press the trigger. It's going to click. Then I'm going to cycle the slide myself. I'm going to pretend that it fired. Point in here, get a click. Now I'm going to cycle that slide as my finger's holding to the rear. And as I do that, I'm going to slightly release my finger, and then my trigger resets. Let's take a closer look at that. So I'm here, I point in, I click. Now I'm holding the trigger to the rear just so I can do this drill. And as that slide would cycle, I just relax my finger just enough to where it resets. I don't let it go all the way back out, and my finger certainly doesn't come off. What that allows us to do is get our second, third, and maybe even fourth shot more quickly because my trigger doesn't have to run as far. So one more time, I'm here, I point in, I get a click, that slide cycles, and I relax my finger, and it will reset. Now with some guns, for example like a striker fired gun A lot of times the reset on those is a little longer, a little more pronounced. You can physically feel it, but regardless of the gun, only let that trigger run as far forward as you absolutely have to. All right, so something else to consider when we're really looking at accuracy is our grip. The grip that I have on the gun is critical for accuracy. A good grip has the strong side hand nice and high underneath the beaver tail, as high as I can get it on the gun. I want to be as close to the bore axis or where that barrel is at as I can. That really helps minimize the muzzle flip. I want to have a nice firm grip, but not a death grip here, because I still need my trigger finger to move pretty smoothly. If I grip too hard, that trigger finger is a little bit jerky, and we don't want that. So I have a nice high grip on my gun. Now my support side hand wraps around that, closes the door, and this is about 70% of my grip right here. When I come in here, close that, and if you notice on the back, my fingers, my hands are closed in behind it. I'm going to close that door behind the gun. I put my thumb, I ratchet that wrist down, I lock it down so that my thumb is pointed down the muzzle, just like this. And with a 1911, my thumb actually rests on the safety. If you're running a striker fire gun, you can rest it on top of the hand. The choice is yours. I have about a 70% grip, and I drive it. I squeeze it and lock it in, point the gun in, and now it is stable. My arms aren't completely locked out. I have just a little bit of bend in them to absorb the shock. I'm relaxing my hips right here. Nice firm grip, and I'm going to drive the gun just like this. If I close that around here, it allows me to maximize my muzzle control. We'll never eliminate muzzle flip. It's physically impossible, especially with a full-size gun. But I can control it. I can get it so it's not jumping all over the place. And the way to find out is honestly to videotape yourself. Get a camera beside you. If you see the muzzle jumping, that tells me that your grip isn't very good. So focus on that. Drive that hand up nice and high. Close that hand around here. Let's close the door behind it. Thumb down the side and lock it in, just like this. And once again, smooth press of the trigger. Let's take a peek. Okay, let's look at one last principle. I wish we had about 3 hours to do this, but one last principle is follow through. The idea is that for every shot you take, we have 2 sight pictures. My initial sight picture that I'm getting when I break my shot, I fire it, but then I need to have a follow-up sight picture as well, just in case I need to shoot it again, or a third or a fourth time. That follow through really helps your accuracy, because if you do what I call whack-a-mole, where you fire your gun, it lowers and you pop your head up, now you have to reset the gun, get it back up, and a lot of times even reset the trigger. So I want to have good follow through. For example, I'm here, I'm going to present, I'm going to point in, I press, my gun fires, the slide will cycle, and I'm still dialed in. Now I decide I don't need to take another shot. Safety goes on, pause, then we're going to put our gun away. Not until I have to though. We want to have 2 side pictures for every shot. So if I have 1 shot, 2 side pictures. 2 shots, I have 3 side pictures. It's important that we have that because it really helps us on our following up shots. Helps us really improve our accuracy. Let's take a look at that. So I hope you find those drills useful. While it takes a little practice, you can master accuracy with your handgun. Stick to the fundamentals and practice. You know, I want to thank Springfield again for sending out this range officer. It's a very enjoyable gun to shoot, especially a 9mm. I also want to give a big shout out to Ammo Incorporated for feeding me some ammo for this project in this great ammo famine time. So once again, I hope you enjoyed it. Until I see you again, stay safe.